enlighten us. Please do, sir.
Even where the communists and fascists disagree with the liberals, I mean, look, none of the communists believed in the state of nature, but they inherit the value set of the state of nature regardless. Like Marx, Engels, Kropotkin is really guilty of this, because in Kropotkin's day, by the end of the 19th century, the archaeology had all been done. And so in his book, Mutual Aid, he just lays, and Mutual Aid is a great book, actually. And what it is an anti-communist book, because in Mutual Aid, he lays out, oh yeah, humans were never in the state of nature. There was no equality or liberty. What there was is essentially groups of tribes, hierarchical organizations.
Humans were never in the state of nature? What? That's incredibly not true. He also has a terrible read of Kropotkin. That's okay. He's illiterate. It's fine. Human beings are obviously animals. You can't say that they've always existed in hierarchical structures. That's crazy. Hierarchies are enforced by systems, not nature. There's nothing natural about enforcing a hierarchy on a social level. It just is something that happens when you decide that that's how you want to do it. Like, it's just, I really think the problem is we have been evolved to be greedy because you need to have things, and rising above our evolved nature is what we're looking for here. I think people freak the fuck out when they don't have their needs, which is pretty obvious. So if we collectively ensure needs are met, you see all these pressure points on society get relieved. Like, you're still going to have plenty of problems even if everyone has their stuff. Like, people are still going to have personal issues with one another. They're still going to have, diseases and accidents and all sorts of shit. So there's no reason to add more pressure on everybody by saying, hey, by the way, you have to compete with each other and also pretend that you're in community with one another, but also not have any of the benefits of community. You know what I mean? Like, America and the West in general and their obsession with capitalism is not ideal.
They were struggling to survive against a really hostile wilderness. And they worked together, I mean, mutual aid being the theme of the book, they worked together to make sure that everyone survived and carried on. And it's like, okay, well then why would we be communists? Because
to provide collectively the well-being for everybody, because we can't do it alone.
What are you talking about? We're not having equality in any way, and they don't really have liberty. What they have is a howling wilderness full of teeth that they're afraid of. So actually order and structure and security would be the things that they would value.
Yes.
Like, from their own perspective, the early man did not value liberty.
Yes, they did. They absolutely did. Hello? I guess we gotta go. He's talking about like early Western civilization, and then prior to that, like nomadic, like, is he talking pre-agricultural revolution? But like in the Bronze Age, when you really start to see city-states become major important things, especially throughout the West, you see many people saying, no, I don't wish to live like that. You know what I mean? There's some, like, you're describing collectivization, like a poli, for instance, like Athens or whatever, or any of the Grecian peninsula. You see collectivization inside that, and then hierarchy happens through enforcement of like untrue things, like, oh, this guy is blessed by Apollo, this guy is using violence to make sure that he has control, this guy is, he converts to Christianity, you know what I mean? Like, this keeps happening. So yeah, I mean, it's just human psychology to be controlled in systems that allow for it. So to some extent, I guess people, you say people seek to be controlled or don't want liberty or whatever, which is a crazy thing to fucking argue, that people don't want liberty. Yes, they do, but they will sacrifice, absolute liberty of like running naked in the woods for the social contract of, but also like the bears are out in the woods, and if we all live in the same spot, the bears can't get us. You know what I mean? Like, so there's an interplay of that. So it's about maximizing liberty while getting rid of as much hierarchy as possible. If natural hierarchies arise, that's fine. Like, you're still going to have a teacher in a classroom and a foreman on a construction site and a captain of a football team, and that's all fine. But what's not good is that those hierarchies specifically control the well-being of people beneath them. Those people's well-being should not be on the hook for cooperating with some person in a social setting. That's coercion, and that's the problem with capitalism, right? Because now you got this guy and guys like him that just suck billionaire dick because they need billionaire money to live well in a system that requires money, right? So it's so stupid. Like, you're just cucking yourselves. I don't want freedom, actually. Because in the fucking ancient times, saber-toothed tigers existed.
Liberty was a terrible curse.
It was basically a byword for insecurity.
Exactly. It was a swift death, right? And this is why in the ancient world it was a punishment. No, you're ostracized, you're exiled from the society. No, good luck. You know, and people don't understand in the modern era, you know, the modern era where you've got one of the great things about capitalism is the anonymization of society, right?
He almost couldn't say it. He couldn't even look this guy in the face and say these things. He had to like mumble it to him.
As in, you can just go to any
One of the great things about capitalism is
town in the country and rent a room, right? You can't do that in like, you know,
No, you can't. That's a very white perspective. No, you can't.
2000 BC. In, you know, if you're not a member of that tribe, they're not taking you in. Why would they take you in? You're on your own. Good luck, you know. And so the issues that these men...
That is just not true. What are you talking about? Obviously, tribes or whatever the fuck he's talking about had people from outside of their tribes come into them and like they had exchange. Like, clearly. It wasn't a fucking Rust server, man. Jesus fucking Christ. It's just such a strange read of human history. Like, that's not even like reasonable. Right, we would have died out. Of course. There was tons of human cooperation. The problems came, like, all of the things he's saying, like, oh, you know, it was the wilderness that we were worried about. I mean, for sure, fucking 10,000 years ago, prior to civilization, but once civilization occurs, the number one problem is and continues to be human beings violating the social order, which would be to not exert undue hierarchy over others through various means, usually, typically, in those times, violence. In the Bronze Age, the number one problem was pirates, and that's not a joke. They would drive, like anyone with a fucking boat that could get up and down the coast really quick, you know, they'd just go in and be barbarians to people and pirate and steal people's shit rather than learning how to do it themselves. And so that was like an economy unto itself. So you had these city-states that popped up, and they put walls up, and a guy would be like, look, I can protect us from this, you know, and through circumstance, you end up getting there. The same thing happens, like, white people do this to each other everywhere. Like, this is a super common white people thing. Yes, it happens in other cultures, but to a lesser extent. So often in other cultures, you see people like fall in line behind certain ideologies together and work communally, and then someone will use one community against the other one that isn't ready for it. The way that white cultures historically have tended to do is quite barbarous, and like, if anything, we seek more cruelty than most other groups historically. It's very strange.
Would have had are very different to the issues that the 19th century sort of communists had. But the communists at no point challenge the assumptions of liberty and equality. They inherit the liberal assumptions, the liberal values, even while rejecting the way that they came to these values. And for some reason, just none of them said, well, is this really what we're after then? You know, at what point do we admit that, okay, if blank slate isn't true, if the state of nature isn't true, where are we going? And yet Marx and Engels uncritically adopt these. Kropotkin uncritically adopts these.
Uncritically? You're arguing that any of them came to their conclusions uncritically? What a fucking bad faith perspective.
I mean, Rawls uncritically adopts the values. And so if the values are built on a false mythology, then they're not going to produce something that is true, real, and good. They're going to produce something artificial. They're going to produce
Capitalism is artificial. It's literally artificial.
Something that is opposed to what humans actually need, and as opposed to human nature. And this is where we have found ourselves now. And so we've gone through the 20th century, and the sort of...
I agree that, capitalism is opposed to human nature. This does not... Like, the reason everyone is stressed out and unhappy is capitalism. It just is, you know, and the politics therein.
Slow normalization of communism and liberalism into whatever we call it now. I don't
Communism and liberalism.
even know what we want to call what's happening now, the sort of the managed command economy, right?
The managed command economy? Why is he pretending there's communism happening? Where?
Where like the values that underpin these are expressly liberal values, because what they're trying to do is create freedom in a certain compass and equality to a certain degree. So, for example,
Right, to the maximal degree that you can while still operating under the social contract, which would be to ensure everyone's right to life, liberty, and happiness, like the pursuit of it. Like, I can't take a gun and just shoot whoever I want. My freedom is limited in this way. You know what I mean? Like, pretty reasonable. Yes, it's not absolute freedom, but I'm fine with that. I can't take a shit on somebody's, car or whatever. Can't take a shit on my neighbor's fucking porch every day. I mean, I guess I could, but I don't think it would stand for very long.
Paul, Dan did a video the other day talking about how in Britain the average wages are somewhere between 30 and 50,000.
You mean you're talking about Dan Tubbs at the Lotus Eaters here?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
He's an economist, and this is the sort of thing that fascinates him. That the average income is somewhere between 30 and 50,000, because if you're above that, obviously your taxes start really rising to the point where it's just not worth earning any money. But if you're below that, even if you're working, the government tops up your wages, so you're in this band. So you're not equal, but you are very equal in a historic sort of sense.
See how I had to swallow down that fucking wretched attempt at trying to say, well, this is what equality looks like.
And this is a sort of anti-freedom position. So you are free, and like the interpretations of freedom, of course, change. But you're free to engage in any kind of licentiousness you want, practically. But you're not free to earn more money than your neighbor, right?
Yeah, you are. What are you talking about? The problem you have here is that billionaires are hoarding it and they're not spreading it out to your neighbors. Like, every time we go like, oh, you want to make more money? Well, then you should have a share of your profits, a direct share of the profits that you generate for that place, and you should have a collective bargaining with the employees at your workplace, rather than just having all of the power in the hands of the bosses that control your wages. And you say that that's leftism. So, like, what the fuck are you talking about, Carl? If you want to make more money, just pull yourself up by your fucking bootstraps then. Oh, no, I can't in communism or whatever the fuck he's saying. No, dude.
Like, you're not really free to do that because the state will intercede. So you've got and another thing as well with the concept of universal human rights, right? So this is another liberal innovation that has dramatic downstream consequences that no one really thought about.
All humans have rights. Bad consequences when?
So the rights of Englishmen make a lot of sense. They're historically contingent, they're fixed. You can point to the people that they are residual in and why those people have them.
Okay, so I think this is the flag meme from the Eddie Izzard skit. I think this is the same thing. Well, we wrote it down. Okay, is he gonna say the Magna Carta?
They've been historically negotiated.
They are a product of historical negotiation, and they make a lot of sense. They're also something that a lot of people have been envious of, right? Because, I mean, why wouldn't you be? If you were in 17th century France, yeah, look at the English. Why do they get to have habeas corpus? Why do they get to have jury trials? Why do they get to have what was, at the time, an incredible amount of political freedom? Why is it that the British Empire was mostly a private endeavor? Like, that's not possible in most other times and places. Like,
the way he talks about the British Empire being a private endeavor, which is just helping the communist leftist position by saying, yes, that was a bad thing. The British Empire is bad.
look at the Roman Empire. No, it's the
Roman Empire bad.
State. Like, it's Pompey conquering the East. Well, he's part of the triumvirate. It's Julius Caesar conquering Gaul.
Even our man
They just think that's cool, that's all.
of conquest was permissive.
Incredibly. Right? It was literally, I mean, you can find now.
Do your thing, lads. Yeah.
You can find now, like, newspaper articles, like adverts, wanted, 200 strong men, high risk of death, but maybe great glory and treasure. And it's just like, because you were free, you could go and do this. And it was a very enviable thing, right, to people in France who were in a strictly hierarchical, almost caste system.
So the treasure and adventure is colonizing other people. That's what he's talking about. oh, look at all the adventure. I could go somewhere where brown people aren't prepared for me and then sucker punch them with guns and do a sneak attack from the coast and then steal their shit. Wow. Of course it's a wild position. It has no coherence whatsoever.
And so okay, well, yeah, I would like what they have, but you have to rationalize how you're going to get there, right?
Uh-huh. So we should just be able to take your shit? Is that what you're saying? Like, he does not believe this is true for other people against Great Britain, right? He doesn't think the UK should be... Like, he doesn't think that the United States should just take his shit. He does think that Britain should be able to do that to other people that are smaller or weaker or whatever he fucking thinks, but not in the reverse, because that would be ridiculous. That would negatively affect him.
And you can't say, well, I'd like the rights of Englishmen, please, because they'd be like, well, you're a Frenchman.
Yeah,
you're a German.
It's not a simple copy and paste job.
No, it's not. And
Why? What makes them fundamentally different for being French? Like, particularly French and English. That's the distance between Michigan and Ohio. What do you mean? Why? Assigned French at birth. If you're French, you do not get rights.
And the abstraction of liberalism away from the rights of Englishmen into universal right to man.
Yeah, totally agree with this, yeah.
This is a powerful thing, right? And this is what Burke puts in his reflections on the revolution. He's like, in the principle of liberty, I see a powerful spirit, and I don't know where it goes.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
And he was very wise to be nervous about that, because, of course, then it leads into the French Revolution, which he predicts almost word for word in advance of it. And
French Revolution good, though. French Revolution good. Not 100% good, but good. Better than not revolution, that's for sure.
And so what you have is the desire for a certain outcome being applied to a society that doesn't have the historic infrastructure to get there.
Yeah.
And this is why the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution and the Chinese Revolution all take on the same sort of aspects. Oh no, these are levelers. These are leveling revolutions, because none of the society brought us to the point of English liberty. And so, okay, well, we've just got to get rid of all of this then. And it's like, okay, but that's insane. That's a hugely damaging thing. And
He just really loves to say that the UK and Great Britain just did something so unique, bro. They just did something so unique. You still have a king, you fucking cuck. Like, huh?
what it does is it makes the government the guarantor of your rights. That's not how it works. We're against the government. The government is the infringer of our rights. But now the government has found itself as the guarantor of our rights, which is like, okay, that's kind of like an abusive relationship.
Yeah,
actually.
they become a form of state largesse rather than something natural or even inherited.
Exactly. It should be local communities resisting central authority.
Yeah.
That's communism, Carl. That's That's anarcho-communism. That is literally anarcho-communist. You fucking idiot. Oh my god. No, he means like feudalism, you're right. He does mean like a libertarian feudalist commune, but not. What he wants is little tiny fiefdoms the size of small towns that are all walled in from each other that have no access to each other. That's his big freedom. Great.
And that's what it would be if it wasn't for the way that the modern state operates. Because the modern state says, okay, well, yeah, universal rights for everyone under every condition all the time. And
Which is definitely how it should work, because every human being exists on Earth. They should definitely be considered humans.
going to bring in a bunch of foreigners. They have the same rights as you. And now I have to defend them against you. Because your majority demographic power...
Demographic power. Dog, what are you talking about? Just have neighbors. I don't go door to door and check if my neighbors are cool based lefties before I let them live there. I don't make sure they're white guys or not white guys because I'm so woke. You're white, you can't live here. If you want to live in the community, be a member of the community. I don't care. Let's do it.
Is actually infringing on their right to religion or on their right to free speech or whatever, their right to not be discriminated against, all sorts of things. And so now...
You're saying their right to religion. Be an anti-theist then. Simply become an anti-theist leftist and you'll have the right prescription for this.
Government has actually positioned itself as the defender of these minorities against the majority. And this is why you've got, 12,000 people a year processed through the courts or whatever, however many it is, in defense of a minority. So the government has actually kind of flipped itself into being essentially kind of the victim of the wider society. And this whole thing is only possible through liberal philosophy.
Yeah. Well, rights understood as a kind of general.
So now he's saying he's opposed to the liberal philosophy when he spent his whole career saying, I'm a classical liberal. Like, what is he even trying to advocate for then?
For a state guaranteed, state underwritten largesse necessarily burden the state. And by extension burden in our back to front societies the people who are forced to subsidize the state in its activities, many of which actually are not in our interests.
How are you both fucking monarchists and you think that you are subsidizing the state? If anything, you're subsidizing the monarchy. This is just ridiculous. And the billionaire class that you keep allowing to own everything. You're worried about, as all surf-minded, slop fucking brained cucks like these two guys. They are much too worried about the brown people moving in than they are about the billionaire class that is trying to own all of it. They don't care. Like, this is just a distraction, and they fall for it so easily.
What it does, though, just a quick thing on that. What it does, though, is it conceptually renders the people being oppressed by the state as the oppressors of the people the state is trying to protect. Right? So it creates a demented view. The state takes on a demented view of its own responsibilities.
Oh, yes.
So the state is there. No, I have to, we saw this at Southport where Keir Starmer was like, right, 24-hour courts, you are going down for this. And it's like, well, what happened? Well, these people have had foreigners imposed on them, and those foreigners are killing their children.
Yes.
The foreigners are killing the children. All the children are dead. Not the white English children. All of them have died. It's true. Don't look it up.
The state's choice, this was a matter of government policy to inflict horror on the people of England, and the state accuses them of being the oppressors of the people who are victimizing them. And so it's a demented interpretation of what governance is.
Yeah, I agree that your interpretation is demented. Definitely.
And this is only possible through the liberal view of human rights.
The liberal view of human rights. I don't even think liberals claim to give people human rights. They definitely pay lip service to it, but the liberalism he's talking about is like fucking Enlightenment period liberalism, which definitely involves slavery. So he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. As always, Sargon of Akkad, an absolute fucking idiot.